Claude Code just hit 80.9% on SWE Bench verified, while Claude Cowork has 0 published benchmark scores, and that gap could decide whether your automation project ships or stalls. Both tools are blowing up right now, so I'm putting Claude Cowork against Claude Code across 5 head-to-head tests to see which one actually earns your workflow. And the context window test flips the whole scoreboard in a way I really didn't see coming. Stick around for that one. My name is Brian, and I'm in these tools 12 hours a day, so you don't have to be. Every number in this comparison traces back to official pricing pages, product docs, and model cards both companies actually publish. Pick the wrong tool, and you're either paying for a CLI you'll never open, or a GUI that can't touch your codebase. Test 1, cost. The number that jumps out right away is $17 a month for Claude Pro on annual billing, and both tools are bundled inside that same plan, no separate subscription, no hidden fee. Claude Code adds a paper token API path that Cowork doesn't have, and at scale that flexibility can change the math pretty fast. What I looked at first was whether one tool costs more just to access, and it doesn't. Both Claude Cowork and Claude Code ride the same Claude Pro, Max 5x, and Max 20x plans from about $17 up to $200 a month. The only real difference I found is that Claude Code can also bill per token through the API, which Cowork can't do. Community data puts Code's enterprise usage at around $150 to $250 per developer per month, but Cowork has no comparable published figure. Now, the paper token edge for Claude Code sounds like a big deal, but I'd take it with a grain of salt. It's a flexibility difference, not a price advantage. If you're on a flat subscription and you never touch the API, that extra option means nothing to you. And the enterprise cost figure for Code is community reported, not an official number, so the real gap between these two at scale is pretty unclear. Cost is a tie. The base subscription is identical for both, which honestly surprised me a little. Claude Code gets a small edge from the API billing option, but that only matters if you're going off plan. So we're sitting at 0 wins each, 1 tied, no score change yet, and the real separators are still ahead. Test 2. Coding benchmark performance. The number that actually made me stop scrolling is 80.9% on SWE Bench verified. That's the first time any tool has broken 80% on that coding eval. If you're shipping production code and your tool can't hit that bar, you're going to spend real time cleaning up what the model gets wrong, and that adds up fast across a team. What surprised me here is how one-sided the data is. Claude Code with Opus 4.5 scores 80.9% on SWE Bench verified, and with Opus 5.0, it hits 84% on SWE Bench Pro across 50 eval cases. Claude Cowork, I couldn't find a single published benchmark score anywhere. To be fair, that doesn't prove Cowork is worse, it just means there's no public evidence to compare. But if you need a number to stand behind, only one tool gives you one. Claude Code takes this one, and it's not subtle. 80.9% verified, 84% on the Pro eval, versus no published number at all for Cowork. That puts Claude Code up 1-0, with 1 tied. The risk lens here is real. If you're picking a coding tool and one has 0 public evidence, the safer pick is the one that shows its work. Test 3. Speed. The number on screen right now is 2.5x. That's how much faster Claude Code's fast mode runs on Opus compared to standard. If you're literally hammering a tool with back-to-back tasks and every slow response breaks your flow, that multiplier is the difference between a tool that keeps up and one that becomes the bottleneck in your whole day. So I looked at what each tool actually publishes on speed, and the gap is pretty stark. Claude Code has a documented fast mode up to 2.5 times faster on Opus, with concrete commands like osh model haiku, compact, and clear to tune response time. Claude Cowork, I couldn't find any published speed figures. What I did find was a troubleshooting guide for when Cowork runs slow, which tells you something about how each team approaches this. Bear in mind fast mode costs more per token, so it's a speed versus cost trade-off. Claude Code wins speed, and there's nothing from Cowork to push back with. Code has a real documented lever. Cowork has a troubleshooting page. That pushes Claude Code to 2 wins, 0 for Cowork, 1 tied. From a risk standpoint, the tool with no speed data is the one you can't predict under load. Alright, so Claude Code is ahead right now, but the context window test and the deployment test are still coming, and one of them could completely change which tool fits your actual day. Specifically, if you work with long documents or whole repo context, the next number on screen might be the only one that matters for your decision. Test 4, context and output limits. 1 million tokens versus 200,000. That's a 5x difference in how much text a tool can hold in one shot. If you're feeding in a whole codebase or a long legal doc and the tool cuts off halfway through, you're not just annoyed, you're rerunning the task, repaying for tokens, and probably getting a worse answer because the model lost half the context it needed. What I found here was a genuine surprise. Claude Cowork's Pro plan lists a 1 million token context window. That's community reported from Coworker.io, not an official Anthropic spec, so treat it carefully. Claude Code's standard is 200k tokens, which is the official number. Now, Code can reach 1 million tokens too, but only through fast mode, which costs more per token. So the default gap is real. Cowork at 1M, Code at 200k out of the box. The honest caveat before I call a winner. Cowork's 1M figure is community reported, not confirmed by Anthropic. And Claude Code can match it via fast mode, so if you're willing to pay the premium per token, the gap closes. The practical edge for Cowork only holds if that community number is accurate, and you need a big context window without paying extra for fast mode. Claude Cowork takes context, and this one genuinely caught me off guard. A 5x default context advantage is real if that community figure holds, and Code only matches it by paying more per token. Score is now 1 for Cowork, 2 for Claude Code, 1 tied. For long document work, the safer pick is the tool with the bigger default window, and right now, that's Cowork. Test 5, Deployment and Modality. Claude Code is available in the terminal, VS Code, JetBrains, Slack, GitHub, iOS, Android, and the web. That's 8 distinct surfaces. If your tool can't reach your actual environment, the benchmark scores mean nothing. A developer on a Linux box with a JetBrains IDE needs to know whether their tool even shows up where they work. So I mapped out where each tool actually runs. Claude Code covers the terminal on macOS, Linux, and Windows, plus VS Code, JetBrains, Slack, GitHub, iOS, and Android. Claude Cowork runs on web, desktop, and mobile, solid, but there's no terminal, no IDE plugin, and no Slack or GitHub integration. What's interesting is that Cowork's GUI is specifically designed for non-technical users, so the narrower footprint is a design choice, not an oversight. For a developer, though, the platform gap is hard to ignore. Claude Code wins deployment, and this one wasn't close. 8 platforms versus 3. With IDE and Slack integration that Cowork just doesn't have. Final score, Claude Code 3 wins, Claude Cowork 1 win, 1 tied. From a risk angle, if you're a developer and your tool can't live in your IDE, you're fighting it every single day. Okay, so where does Claude Cowork clearly win? 3 things. First, that 1 million token context window, community reported, but 5x Code's standard 200k, which matters a lot for long documents or whole repo reads. Second, the GUI makes agentic automation usable without a terminal. Third, Cowork can open browsers and run web tasks end-to-end, which Code doesn't do natively. And where does Claude Code clearly win? Also 3 things. Published, verified coding benchmarks, 80.9% on SWE Bench Verified, and 84% on SWE Bench Pro. Numbers Cowork simply can't match because it has none. Fast mode up to 2.5 times faster on Opus, with real commands to tune it. And a deployment footprint that covers the terminal, VS Code, JetBrains, Slack, and GitHub, everywhere a developer actually works. So here's the decision rule. If you write code and live in a terminal or IDE, pick Claude Code 80.9% on SWE Bench Verified is the number that matters, and no other tool in this comparison can show you that. If you're non-technical and need point-and-click automation with a big context window for long documents, Cowork is the safer pick because the command line is a real barrier. One tool, one workflow, that's the call. If you want to see how Claude Code holds up against a free alternative, I ran the same kind of breakdown in my video called Ollama versus Claude Code. Can free local keep up? The cost gap there is way more dramatic than anything we saw today, and it might change what you actually pay for.